A producer once offered Elvis Presley a role that could win him an Academy Award. Colonel Parker's response, "If it wins, you pay for it." The producer never came back. Elvis made over 30 films, never won an Oscar, never appeared on Carson or Griffin. For decades, Parker took the blame. Then in 1987, he finally explained why he kept the biggest star in the world off the air. In 1929, a 20-year-old Dutch immigrant named Andreas Cornelis van Kook stepped off a boat in the United States, leaving his past behind. He eventually took the name Tom Parker and found his footing in the traveling carnivals of the American South. Working as a barker and promoter for the Sells Floto Circus, Parker learned a very specific set of rules on the Midway. The carnival environment was a school of pure transaction. There, Parker developed his primary rule: never give the audience everything at once. He realized that keeping a portion of the attraction hidden was the only way to ensure the crowds would return tomorrow. For a Midway operator, attention was a resource to be carefully rationed, and scarcity was the primary tool for protecting value. In this world, success was measured strictly by the cash register at the end of the night, entirely separate from artistic development. This focus on profit and control formed a consistent internal logic. Before Parker ever managed a single musical artist, he had already mastered the art of withholding, establishing a business mindset that prized calculated reservation over exposure. On August 15, 1987, 10 years after Elvis Presley's death, Colonel Tom Parker sat down with Ted Koppel on ABC's Nightline. Koppel raised a question that had puzzled fans and industry insiders for decades. Why was Elvis never a fixture on major talk shows like Johnny Carson or Merv Griffin? These platforms offered massive national exposure, yet Presley remained absent from their stages. Parker's explanation was immediate and rooted in his commercial philosophy. He told Koppel that other managers devalued their artists by giving them away for free on late-night television. According to Parker, once the public could see a performer for free, those same acts struggled to find paid work. "We kept Elvis rare," Parker explained, arguing that a performer's market value depends entirely on scarcity. In his view, television appearances were a commodity to be sold, not a promotional giveaway. He believed that saturation would cheapen the brand, making the public less willing to buy concert tickets or movie admissions. This exchange forces a choice between two very different interpretations of Parker's management. One must weigh whether this calculated absence was a brilliant strategy of business protection or a restrictive cage that limited Elvis's cultural reach. To Parker, keeping Elvis off the couch of Johnny Carson was never about personal spite or fear of live television. It was a cold, protective business calculation designed to preserve high demand. Yet, this logic raises another question about how much of Elvis's potential was sacrificed to keep him rare. When critics confronted Parker about these sacrifices, specifically how his restrictions choked Elvis's potential as a serious dramatic actor, the manager offered no apologies. Instead, during his 1987 appearance on Nightline, he shut down the debate with a single sharp retort: "If the critics think they know more than I do, they should go into management themselves." To Parker, management was a highly specialized trade, a midway craft that outsiders simply had no right to judge. He treated his decisions not as artistic compromises, but as business necessities that required a level of expertise the public couldn't grasp. This unbothered, combative confidence was his shield. By framing any artistic critique as amateur interference, Parker directed the focus away from his own actions, leaving audiences to weigh his supreme self-assurance against the reality of Elvis's restricted career. In 1960, producer David L. Wolper approached Parker with a scripted war drama designed to position Elvis for serious award consideration. Parker's response was not a discussion of character, theme, or script quality, but a terms-first commercial bargain. He demanded that Wolper personally purchase a genuine Academy Award trophy for $5,000 to place on the manager's desk as a physical guarantee of success. If the film failed to secure an Oscar nomination, Parker promised to refund the money in full. These terms turned the concept of artistic prestige into a dry transaction, shifting the financial risk entirely onto the filmmaker. Ultimately, Wolper never returned to finalize the deal, and the project was quickly abandoned. While no written contract exists in Wolper's archives to prove this exchange, the story survives as a revealing look at Parker's rigid negotiating style. To the Colonel, even the highest artistic honors were merely commodities to be packaged, insured, and priced before a single frame of film was ever shot. In his 1987 interview with Ted Koppel, Colonel Parker defended Elvis's creative autonomy, claiming the singer held ultimate control over his musical catalog. Elvis had a good ear, Parker remarked, explaining that his own role was merely that of a filter, selecting and presenting songs that suited the star's style rather than dictating choices. Studio logs and historical accounts paint a more complex picture of committee-driven decisions. Yet Parker admitted to one major exception where he personally steered the music. In 1960, during a recording session, Parker actively pushed for a specific 1920s ballad. He did not lobby for the track based on market research or commercial projection, but because it was the personal favorite of his wife, Marie Parker. Despite initial hesitation from the band and Elvis's musicians, including drummer DJ Fontana, who recalled Parker's persistence, Elvis recorded the song. That track was Are You Lonesome Tonight? It went on to top the Billboard charts, providing a rare moment where a manager's personal life directly shaped one of the most famous vocal performances in American history. In March 1993, Parker sat down with journalist Peter Guralnick for an interview published in Rolling Stone. When asked why the world's most famous entertainer never performed for his millions of international fans, Parker claimed the decision belonged entirely to Elvis. He argued that Elvis disliked massive open-air stadiums, believing that the intimacy of a theater or a showroom was what made his music work. Yet, official records and biographers present a far different set of circumstances. Parker was born Andreas Cornelis van Kook in Breda, the Netherlands. He entered the United States as an undocumented immigrant, never naturalized as a citizen, and spent his life without a valid United States passport. Dutch civil registration records and U.S. immigration files confirm his undocumented status. According to testimony from those within his inner circle, including his associate Bill Stull, Parker lived with a constant anxiety about border control. Leaving the United States for a tour in Europe, Japan, or South America meant risking permanent exile. If he crossed the border, he might never be allowed to return to the life and the business he had built. These two accounts stand in direct opposition, and they cannot both be true. On one hand, a manager claiming to protect his artist's performance preferences. On the other, a stateless promoter protecting his own secret at the expense of Elvis's global reach. The historical record and Parker's own words present a conflict that cannot be reconciled, leaving the audience to weigh the evidence and decide which story is the truth. Ultimately, we are left with the contradiction. Did Parker preserve Elvis's mythic value or merely protect his own secrets? The line between brilliant management and absolute confinement remains yours to draw. Share your verdict in the comments and subscribe for more.